Welcome to Revenge Justice, where every wrong finds its payback. Way back in the early 2000s, before smartphones tracked every step and before social media exposed every secret, there was a man named David. He wasn't the jealous type. He wasn't paranoid or controlling. He worked hard, loved his wife, and was trying to give his children the stable home he never had. But something changed, not all at once, not dramatically, just quietly. His wife, Melissa, had started making regular trips to her parents' home. It didn't seem suspicious at first. Her parents lived out in a quiet town nearly 90 minutes away. They were close to her, and the kids loved visiting their grandparents. Nothing unusual about that. But when those visits started happening, not once, not twice, but 2 to 3 times every week, it lodged itself in the back of David's mind like a splinter. Their children were young, 4 and 6, old enough to talk, innocent enough to talk honestly, and they did. They'd chatter about Grandma and Grandpa's house, what they ate, what toys were there, but something always felt off. Sometimes the timeline didn't make sense. Sometimes the details were strangely thin, and sometimes, when he'd ask how long they stayed, they'd shrug with the uncertainty of someone repeating something rehearsed. David brushed it off, or tried to, but the unease followed him around like a shadow. He finally asked his wife about it one evening. They were cleaning up after dinner. The kids were in their pajamas, running around the living room. "Were you at your parents' today?" he asked casually. She didn't look up from the dishes. "Mm-hmm. And were the kids with you the whole time?" That made her pause. Just a beat, barely a breath. "Yes," she said. Something in her tone, flat, almost careless, made something inside him shift. She wasn't a convincing liar because she never needed to be one. Not before now. He sat with that moment, let it settle in his chest. Saint, it didn't go away. The next week, he did something he never imagined himself doing. He checked the mileage on her car. Not dramatically, not obsessively, just one note, one glance, one number. But when she returned from another visit, he checked again. The math didn't lie. She wasn't just making the long trip to her parents, she was making more trips somewhere else along the way, or after, or before. An extra 400 miles a week, 400. That number sat in his mind like a cold stone. He didn't confront her. Not yet. Not with just instinct and suspicion. He needed more. And then, one afternoon, the universe dropped something directly into his hands. He sat down at the family computer to check something, and there it was, a sticky note, carelessly stuck to the corner of the keyboard, her AOL password, written in her handwriting, not hidden, not coded, just sitting there. He stared at it for a long moment, long enough to feel wrong, long enough to feel betrayed. Then, he typed it, slowly, deliberately. And her emails opened before him. There was no secret folder, no elaborate deception, just exchanges with her college best friend. Casual, confident, careless. In them, she bragged. She laughed. She confessed. She was sleeping with her ex-boyfriend from high school, meeting him regularly, easily, shamelessly, no remorse, no hesitation. She even mocked his wife, calling her overweight, making jokes about her body after childbirth, as if that made it all acceptable. David didn't finish all of it. He didn't have to. He printed what he had, each email, each thread, and he hid them, calmly, methodically. The kind of calm that only comes from heartbreak turning into something hard and cold. Knowing the truth was one thing, proving it was another. He didn't want to be angry. He wanted to be right. He needed evidence, facts, dates, photos, a record that couldn't be denied. So he called someone, an old friend, a cop, someone who'd seen things like this before. And that friend gave him a name. A former police officer turned private investigator. His name was Ron. They met discreetly. David handed him the printed emails and every detail he'd quietly collected. He mentioned the grandparents, the mileage, the schedule, the gut feeling that no longer felt like paranoia. Ron didn't judge him. He just nodded once and said, "I'll handle it." Within days, Ron laid out the pattern. She'd drop the kids at her parents' house. She'd meet the man, Bob, for lunch. They'd go to a cheap, worn-down motel, a place chosen not for comfort but for being forgettable. Then, after a few hours, she'd drive back, pick up the kids, head home, smile like nothing was wrong. Ron didn't just tell David. He showed him. Photographs, dates, times, locations. A whole report, organized, undeniable, heavy. David stared at those photos without speaking, without breathing almost. He wasn't surprised, just still. He hired a divorce lawyer soon after, not out of rage, not for revenge, out of protection. His childhood had been wrecked by two parents who cheated on each other, fought about it, and poisoned their children's peace. He refused, utterly refused, to let history repeat itself. This time, the destruction would stop with the adults, and he intended to be the one who controlled the damage. He asked Ron for more copies of the report and one more favor. While the infidelity wouldn't change much in the divorce legally, the other man, his life was about to feel the impact. Ron investigated him too. His name was Bob, married, 3 kids, a VP of sales at his father-in-law's company, and living in a home owned by his wife's parents, a carefully stacked life, balanced until someone nudged it. David planned it quietly. No shouting, no scenes, no tears on the kitchen floor, just precision. On the same day, at the same moment actually, 2 events unfolded. At Melissa's workplace, she was served with divorce papers, and across town, Ron knocked on the door of Bob's wife. She didn't know Ron, but he introduced himself calmly, respectfully, and handed her the truth. Photos, reports, dates. Her husband's betrayal, documented and undeniable. She didn't scream, she didn't fall apart, she went very, very quiet, and quiet people make very big decisions. David didn't follow up, didn't check in, didn't ask what she'd do. He didn't need to. She now held her own match against the gasoline her husband had poured. The consequences came fast and messy and in public record. Bob's wife emptied their joint accounts. She took the kids and left, and when her father found out what Bob had done, Bob was fired. No negotiation, no goodwill, no second chances. Then came the eviction. The house was owned by her parents, and they wanted him out. Not next month, not eventually, immediately. Their divorce was vicious. Court battles, police involvement, restraining orders. One day, Bob tried going back to the house, tried arguing, begged maybe, demanded probably. It escalated. Her brother stepped in. Bob left with a broken nose. There were more incidents, more reports, more legal charges, eventually, jail time. That was the man Melissa gambled their family for, a man now removed from his home, his children, his job, and even his dignity. Years passed. David heard bits and pieces over time. Nothing directly, just updates in court records and whispers from mutual connections. Bob disappeared from the internet, possibly left the state, started over somewhere far away, his ex-wife. She stepped into her father's company, worked her way up, took over, after he retired. She rebuilt her life from the betrayal, and she didn't look back. As for David and Melissa, the divorce was civil. Not warm, not friendly, just controlled. They communicated only about the children. Birthdays, schedules, school events, nothing more. And once the kids were grown, he stopped speaking to her altogether. Not out of spite. He didn't hate her. He simply no longer included her in the space where his life continued. She mattered only as the mother of his children. Nothing beyond that. Nothing less. If anyone had seen him back then, quietly checking her mileage, printing emails, meeting a private investigator in silence, they might have mistaken his stillness for weakness. It wasn't. It was discipline. It was restraint. It was a refusal to become the same kind of chaotic damage he was raised by. He didn't scream. He didn't beg. He didn't drag their children into it. He simply documented the truth and then delivered it to the right hands, not to ruin lives, but to stop the one that was trying to ruin his. In the end, he lost a wife, but he kept his integrity. And Bob, he lost everything he'd taken for granted. Sometimes, justice doesn't need flames. Sometimes, it only needs facts and perfect timing. Moral of the story: sometimes silence, patience, and strategic action speak louder than anger. Betrayal will eventually catch up to those who think they're untouchable. True justice comes not from revenge alone, but from timing, truth, and integrity. If you enjoyed this story of true revenge and justice, like this video and subscribe to our channel for more shocking real-life stories.